All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella Show. And today's show, I'm really excited to get into this topic because it's one that I have been going down a rabbit hole myself in my own life recently with, which is just regulating your nervous system, what that plays into your overall success. And today I'm very excited because I have Angus Nelson on the show today, who is an author. You just released a new book, Neuro Resilience for the Leader. So I can't wait to dig into all of that. And you were referred by one of my favorite people, Justin Shank.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
listeners know him well. Welcome to the show, Angus. I'm very excited to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much, Sarah. And what a impeccable timing for all of this. Because if you're
Right?
a founder whose company is growing, but you're thinking everything's feeling heavier and taking longer, if it feels noisier than it used to, your problem is actually probably not strategy, it's
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah. Oh
And
my gosh.
leaders
Pressure cooker
and
we're
some
in
of the
right now.
conversation, even before we started talking on this conversation, even you and I are experiencing
Yeah.
some of that. And what happens when that pressure builds with all the uncertainty and all the change, all the disruption, the artificial intelligence, that pressure starts to distort judgment. And
Absolutely.
today, that's what we get to talk about is how
I
to how
can't
to do
wait.
the
And before
opposite.
we get into all of that on this show, we love a good origin story. We love to get to know the personal side of what has made you so passionate about what you're doing. I mean, I think, like you just said, that the timing, the topic is so important right now,
Mhm.
absolutely needed. But where did this start for you? Did you have kind of a pivotal moment, a shift where this became a passion for you? To take us back to where it all started.
I think there's layers attached to this. My first business I started in my late 20s. I had gotten married. I was putting on music festivals along with an arts-driven youth center. And one of those music festivals, we went really big. We had a band called Train was our headliner,
Hmm.
and we had thunder showers come in. We lost $72,000 in that one weekend. And for our little organization, that's a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
And so I was wrestling with this ego and this need to prove to everyone I could turn it around, to my board, to the community, to my wife at the time. And in short order, those 80, 90-hour work weeks started to turn into me drinking and
Hmm.
then sleeping around. I blew up the marriage, I blew up the business, and now I'm also leading worship for my dad's church,
Hmm.
and I've gotten kicked off of that. The amount of shame and pain. I was suicidal underneath my Christmas tree, 2003
Wow.
on December 25th. And I heard a voice that said, "We're not done here yet." The very
Wow.
next week, I checked in for counseling. I started learning about human behavior and psychology and self-awareness, all these different elements that now to me seem so natural. I had no idea what all that stuff was.
Hmm.
Flash forward a decade, I'd left that city and moved to a new city, was sitting under a guy who was mentoring me and all this philosophy and different way of thinking, some of this Eastern methodology to critical thought. And I met another woman. We got married, and that's whom I'm still married to 19 years later.
Love that.
And that turned into a friend of mine, and I started an innovation association for Fortune 500 brands. He was an analyst. He's tracking all the changes with Airbnb, Lyft, Uber, TaskRabbit, all these peer-to-peer crowdfunding, crowd lending, crowdsourcing type of businesses, two-sided marketplaces. And so I was the people guy, and together we built crowd companies. During my
Wow.
tenure there, I worked with over 75 Fortune 500 brands, over 200 high-level executives, and I started to see different patterns in their lives of the
Yep.
pressure they were facing. Innovation's hard in these big organizations because it threatens part of entire business
Yeah.
lines. It threatens, people's power and politics. And one day, one of those clients said, "Angus, you'd make a great coach." And I said,
Wow.
"Thank you, I
Yeah.
think."
Yeah. You're like,
I didn't know what that
yeah.
meant. 2 weeks later, I'm sharing that story with a friend, and I said, this guy said I'd make a great coach. And I don't know if I can swear on this, but he
You
used
definitely
it.
can.
Oh, he says,
Yes.
you fucking would make a great coach,
Yeah.
Angus. Absolutely. And I'm like, well, cool. I
Yeah.
still don't know what that means. He goes, have you ever read this book? And he told me about this book. I immediately jumped on Amazon. I bought this book, and it was called The Prosperous Coach.
Mm.
And I was just going on vacation with my family. My wife's from Hawaii. Great place to have family. You just go
Yeah.
hang out with your family in
Right.
Hawaii. I'm on the beach, sitting out looking over Lanakai and the Moats Islands, and I'm reading my future.
Wow.
And this book,
Felt
on
that
every
like
page,
call.
I was like, this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
And that was 2015. And now
Wow.
it's been over a decade of investing in leaders' lives and discovering what actually makes us tick and what makes us come alive.
I love that so much. There's a lot of that that kind of mirrors my own story. My rock bottom was met with a counter voice as well, where I had this moment and my whole world got swept away in about 10 minutes. And I thought, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And I had just had this so clear voice that came back and it just was like, what if you can? And just that sentence changed everything for me because it just started opening up, well, if I could, what would I do? And it just changed from being helpless, really, and feeling
Yeah.
helpless to looking for answers and searching for answers. And it opened up everything. And then coaching for me was also just like it was calling, it was beating down my door. I had never seen myself in that light too. So I
Mm.
love that. And I first want to ask you, you like you said, been working with executives for a long time in a different capacity, but you're starting to notice similarities, right? You're starting to
Mhm.
see some definite things that are sticking out. What were some of those, like maybe two or three things that you really were like, wow, the leaders of these companies have this in common, good or bad? Like,
Yeah.
what were some of those first things that you're like, I can't not see this. They're just calling out.
Well, I think some of it I even just kind of preempted the beginning of this call with, and not much of that has changed. It's actually increased,
Mm,
meaning what I'm observing today, in 2026, uh, part of it is the decisions feel heavier and taking longer,
yeah.
100%. But I would say that there's a piece to that that people aren't paying attention to. I talk about this in my book. And if you're listening, this book gets interest to you, I'm going to give it to you free. Go to freebook.vip. You're going to get the whole book for free. And I'm going to tell you why as this conversation unfolds, I'm
Awesome.
sure.
I'll put the link in the show
Um,
notes, guys, too. So,
there is a facet to where we're at. The last 6 years has been a drumbeat of uncertainty and fear. And we've been inundated with this volatility, whether it's the marketplace, whether it's politics, whether it's the economy. We are accelerating faster than most people can adapt. And so as a result, the leaders that I'm paying attention to, that I'm working with on the daily, they do what they've always done, and that's push harder.
hmm
The problem
That
is
was a
you can't,
culture, yeah, for such a long
you
time. Yeah.
right? And you cannot outwork velocity.
Yeah.
And so what is happening, I'm going to say this in a couple different ways. One level is that analysis paralysis, the stalled innovation, where you might be having communication gaps or issues. All of that is an agitated nervous system. That's number one, is the
Mm,
weight of everything is causing your internal to be dysregulated, which means you're highly reactive. And the
right.
smallest things are setting people off, making them defensive, putting them into scarcity, having them, operate and make decisions from fear. That's number one. But number two, we have this observation where I can't trust the government. I can't trust, world powers. I can't trust corporate. They're just firing
Right.
everybody, laying everybody off. I can't trust the person on the internet who's barking up a storm. Like they
Yeah.
disagree with me, blah, blah, blah. But if you follow the line of that continuum, ultimately you end up at, I can't trust me. And
Interesting.
this is a
Yeah.
critical piece for someone who has built a momentum in their business, whether they're, a founder, an executive, if they are an entrepreneur. You built it on an energy.
Yeah.
And suddenly what got you here is keeping you here.
And can look backward track you if you're not adjusting, if you're not noticing. What are some of those signs, I guess, to know if it's my nervous system that is
Mhm.
really maybe clouding my judgment or being triggered, or what does that look like for let's say an average leader or person? Like how can they know, like, hey, this isn't just a bad day, or this isn't me just being mad about this situation. My nervous system is really screaming right now.
Yeah. So, I've shared some of them right now is like there's decisions that factor in speed of making a decision that perhaps 2 years ago would have been, easy.
Yeah,
Perhaps 5 years ago, you wouldn't even thought about it. You just made a call and we just went with it. Even if I didn't know if that was a good call, I just trusted my gut and away we go and we're going to figure it out.
yeah,
Suddenly today, you don't have that trust engine
so
and you're
true.
in a place where you're questioning. That is as an indicator.
That
Number two
self-doubt.
is
Yeah.
an element of uh, you're grinding your teeth or you're clenching.
Mm.
The American Dental Association has reported a 3x, that's
Wow.
300% increase of cracked molars since COVID
Wow.
because people's
Stress.
bodies
Yeah.
are carrying all that anxiety, all that stress. So that's a piece. Furthermore, when you are just sitting, if you are paying attention to yourself, watch how you breathe.
Mm.
Most people do not take full breaths.
Yeah. Very
Their
short.
their chest is tightened up and they are actually taking short breaths. And so if you're moving and you're outside, you don't notice it much. But if you're sitting and you pay attention, you'll realize the way either your posture or the way that you're just carrying yourself in that moment. It's like you go, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden your head opens up.
Yeah. It
Like
almost
you
like it's
literally
lightheaded just from having all that oxygen.
Your literally
Yeah.
your vision, your actual vision with your ocular, cavity. I don't even know that's the
Yeah.
science of your eyes balls, but you actually will see clear. You
Wow.
actually can
Yeah.
think clear. But our oxygen is getting depleted because we are in this state, right? Furthermore, I talked about reactivity.
Hmm.
You're at the water cooler. Somebody brings up something and you go, "Bah, I mean, do we hang out at the water cooler anymore? I don't know, but I'm just
Those
using
are
an
the good old
example,
days.
right? The good old days. Now that we're all remote,
Now everyone's in
perhaps
Slack
not.
complaining.
But if you find yourself reacting to your child, to your partner, to a colleague, in a way that when you walk away, you think to yourself, huh, I could have handled that differently.
That's a great,
That's an indicator.
yeah.
You are operating out of something because most people don't react to what's actually before them. They react to something that's actually behind them.
Mm,
It's a story they're
yeah.
telling themselves. It's a fear that's driving a piece of scarcity or uncertainty.
Yeah.
That's your nervous system.
Mm, yeah. It's so interesting because I am in the process right now of writing my memoir that I've been trying to write for 20 years, and I finally in the last month have unlocked it. And when I put a chapter into, like, say, Claude to just analyze, like, clean up grammar or whatever,
Yeah.
it starts doing this piece where it's like, oh, this was trapped in your nervous system. This was trapped in your nervous system. This is how it's coming out. And you're like, okay, first of all, I don't need you for therapy, Claude
Yeah.
or ChatGPT, but it has just brought it so much into my own personal awareness recently, because a lot of those kind of core connectors I hadn't necessarily seen or put those
Mm,
things together. Something that happened to me at 7 is now showing up in this crazy way,
yeah.
as an adult, or as the decisions I'm making from a conscious standpoint, not even realizing that they're being tracked to, you know, childhood trauma, let's say. So when you're working with someone who has really seen, like, okay, I am showing up differently things that were working for me 5 years ago are not working now. I'm feeling much more dysregulated. Like, what is going on? What does some of that work look like? Like, how do we heal our nervous system? Beyond breathing. Obviously, breathing is the immediate thing that helps regulate you. It helps, calm your nervous system immediately for sure. And I've used it for many years, very important. But like, what are some things that we can do to like start to kind of heal some of that so that our body isn't always just throwing us into that mode of
So
react.
if I were gonna, distill it, I have about 6.5 years worth of writing going into Neuro Resilient Leader.
Yeah.
That started out as so many different things and, pivoted and went one way or the other way. And I would tell you the reason why this book is finally on the market is because the person who wrote it had to become it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's teaching you in the process.
And I didn't write this book wrote me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah,
it's
same.
shaping. So in the same way, there are elements about the nervous system that is, and I used this word before, is based in a story. When you have stories in your life, and we all do, it's what is the frame of that story? Does it put you in a place of victimhood, scarcity, less than, you're not enough, you don't deserve, you're not worthy, you don't have what it takes? These are the perpetual, um, John Acuff calls it, I think he calls it like something about the recordings or something like that.
Yeah.
It's the soundtracks is what he calls
Right.
it in your head. Well, those things are driving you on a indoctrinated basis throughout every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And what most people don't realize is you can actually reprogram yourself just through intention with the opposite. Instead of all those stories that you're hearing from your past, from your experiences, you can reframe those stories. So to begin with is, what am I telling myself?
Yeah.
Am,
I love
am
that.
I, would I say this to anyone else? What a
Right.
dick.
Yep.
We all say that, and we call it our inner critic,
Yep,
right?
the voice of my head, she's a nasty bitch. And she
Yeah,
is. She's so
yeah,
rude. She's
yeah,
so rude. So start paying attention to it, hear it, like, and understand it isn't you. It's just
yeah.
this, yeah,
These are
programmed
just
voice.
stories that we've used to qualify ourselves, right? But they're also a different thing. And in the book, I call it the guardian.
Mm,
And this is a reframe for you to understand that it is not a nasty bitch.
mm,
It is an overprotective parent trying to keep you safe.
yeah. So your
Because
nervous system is reacting,
anything
right?
you stayed in, anything that you've experienced already is comfortable,
Yeah,
even if it's chaotic,
right,
even if it's trauma. At least you know what to expect.
right.
Something that's new, something that's bigger, better, more can scare the crap out of you
Yeah.
as far as your mind is concerned. And by
Hmm.
mind, I mean that's the nervous system that has not been redefined as knowing this is safe,
Yeah,
right? So now we're going through not just your emotional level, but there's a psychological level, right? But then there's a third piece, which is your identity.
yeah,
This is the neuro side of the neuro resilient leaders to understand those emotions, those beliefs and stories, right? There's the element of our identity. Like all of this
hmm,
is part of one and the same. The
yep,
second piece of this is understanding that resilience isn't white knuckling trying to drive and the grit to get through, but rather it's more like shock absorbers in a suspension system on a vehicle.
yeah,
It's measuring the road and it's getting information and data to adjust to make the ride smooth.
right.
That's true resilience. And then leadership is when you actually lead something. And what I mean by that is when you start retraining the stories in your mind and in your heart, you actually start leading yourself.
Yeah, I love
This
that.
book is not so much about being the executive. It's not so much about being the entrepreneur or the founder. It's actually about taking back your sovereignty
Hmm.
your agency, your personal power to lead yourself and lead yourself well.
Yeah, I love that. I've been going through, the last year, probably, I would call it an identity upgrade, let's say. Through the last probably 20, 30 years of my life, every 5 to 10 years, I've done a very intentional, where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? Who am I becoming?
Mm.
Where I am writing, literally writing it out. I am
Yeah.
using the words to create the identity, changing that story, and then following it up with the actions to kind of do that crossover, to let go of the past identity and come into the new identity. And this last year is definitely 6 months for sure has been a lot of that. And it's this is probably the most intentional time I've done it. I've done it multiple different times out of necessity or out of trauma or out of other things. This one was very intentional about like knowing what I just didn't want anymore, deciding who I was going to become and then becoming it. And it's been so interesting to kind of just track that for myself of like, what does that really like look like? If I
Mm.
decide I want to change things about my personality, what does that show up as? What does that look like on a daily basis? And how do I follow through with that? And how do I make sure that I'm being consistent with the new story that I'm layering in? Are there some tips that you share with, some of the work that you've done and with your clients on making that transition, on letting go of those stories that are not, and once you know about them and have
Yeah.
identified them, to
So
how
if
you
you
really
think,
like shed the skin, if you will, or genuinely make that transformation?
yeah, so what is before you? This vision, this dream, this thing that you know that your intuition, your soul, your spirit, or something is calling you to, the universe, whatever you want to call that. The difference between where you are and that thing that you see where you need to be is less about what's in front of you. It's mostly about what's behind you, as I stated earlier. What are you hanging on to?
Hmm.
You're hanging on to something as an excuse. You're hanging on to something as that old identity. As long as I'm this way, I don't have to take on whatever perceived thing that I feel is threatening. Maybe it's responsibility.
Yeah.
Maybe it's having to own some stuff. Maybe it's I'm having to be some stuff. Maybe it's uh, I perceive that it's going to take up more of my time. I perceive that I won't be able to eat the way that I used to. I perceive that I won't be able to spend time with the people I used to spend time with. Like we will build all these stories based on our past.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, I can't be more free because I've got all these things in front. And these become stories that actually become the walls between who you wish to be, right?
Yeah.
So then an exercise is to imagine yourself 5 years or 10 years into the future as that state. Forget about all the things you're telling yourself about what it might require and just experience the things you would feel
Hmm.
if those things were true. See it, feel it, touch it,
Yeah.
taste it. Who
Walk
would I
yourself through
be?
that day.
Am I feeling this sense of fulfillment and satisfaction and meaning and contribution? I feel like I'm showing up with impact and I feel peace and joy and love. And just kind of marinate in that a little bit.
Hmm.
And then bring it into today.
Yeah, I love that.
Because the decisions you're making, the relationships you're choosing, the bullshit you are tolerating has to change.
Hmm.
When you operate from the frequency that you know you're supposed to be, when
Yeah.
you operate from a future state, the future becomes possible. The question I always ask, I have two questions in almost every conversation. The first one is I call the Spice Girl principle. Tell me what you want, what you really, really
Hmm.
want.
Yeah, that's the number one question. What do you want? Because we can't even do that visualization
Yeah.
exercise unless we have somewhere to go.
Well, that's why I say don't imagine the thing that you're doing. Imagine the feeling you
Yeah,
have at arriving at whatever it is that you
in
think
that
you might,
life or in
right?
that, yeah,
Right.
moment.
And that's a very important distinction. So then the second piece, the second question is, who must you become
Hmm.
in order to attain it?
Yep.
Right? My coach, Dan Martell, gets in my face, kicks my ass all the time. And one of the things he says is, what are you choosing to be confused about?
Yeah, that's a great one.
We will
Yeah,
entangle
you're making it
ourselves
harder than it needs to be.
into making these things complicated,
Yeah.
and that's actually an identity, an emotion, and a story.
Hmm.
So I'm going to layer another piece to that, and that is media, whether it be, news, whether it be music, movies, whatever, uh, that influences us.
Yep.
Whatever you're listening to, whatever you're watching, seeing, these are all gateways of information. That information becomes data. The data goes into us,
Yep.
and we are a supercomputer. And that data, we are electrical beings, and energy is in us all the time. But
Yep.
energy cannot be created and it cannot be destroyed. It can only be moved.
Hmm.
This is the law of thermodynamics. So if that's true, then we're moving energy all the time, but we get to choose what kind of energy we want to move. And if you want to move negative energy, that will often get stuck in
Yeah.
our bodies,
Yep.
right? This is why we do some of the breathing, tapping, meditation,
Mhm.
visualization, getting to the gym, like moving your body, all these things move energy.
Yep.
But again, if you're actually going to that place of sovereignty and leading yourself, then you have to choose what you will expose yourself to. Turning off
So
the
important.
talk radio, which is only
So important.
agitation,
Yep.
turning off news channels, which are only agitation. Like, hey, I get it. You want to stay informed, but do not stay inundated,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
Because
The
every
stuff,
single thing you're putting in
yeah,
is creating who you are and who you're
yeah,
showing up as, and also what you're
yeah,
calling in for the future, which is you have to take ownership of that. To say,
right. So
hey,
this is the data that's
yep,
reprogramming our operating system.
yeah,
And if you want to upgrade the operating system, suddenly the things you choose to listen to watch, to experience, the stories that you start to reframe in your life, to understand that everything you went through is nothing more than tuition.
yeah,
It's the price you paid for the graduation you're stepping into.
yeah. It's a
All of it
classroom. Yeah,
prepared me, shaped me. My hardest seasons, the one that we open up this conversation to,
yeah,
I'm so grateful because had I not learned those lessons when I was 29, 30 years old, like I might not be learning until I'm
same.
60,
Yeah,
55, and I jack up my life and my kids in some extraordinary way that at least I had learned it at an early stage. Second of all is like the fact that I made choices to turn that pain into something more powerful,
yeah,
right? We have to choose this perspective that I am controlling my reality.
right.
I get to choose joy,
Yep,
laughter, peace. I have that sovereignty. And if you change those things that you're listening to, the things you're watching, the things that you're, stories that you're telling
yep,
yourself, you start to upgrade the operating system. And it's only a matter of time that the operating system, which is this electric state, will operate at a frequency or an energy that will seek to attract or create a higher caliber
yep,
of experiences, opportunities, and relationships. But
yep.
if you keep feeding it the junk, don't be surprised when you keep experiencing the same things over and over again that are
Yeah.
junky.
Yeah.
The same
Because you're
relationships.
constantly calling in your
Yep.
future with all of that.
Yep.
I always think of it as like putting the destination in your Maps app.
Yep.
If there's no destination, you're gonna go around and round and round. It's gonna take
Yep.
forever, and you're not gonna find out where you want to go. If you put it in, I get where I want to go. And so if you're not taking ownership of that and you're just absorbing, even if you think you're not, the scroll is absorbing, the scroll is
Yep.
programming, the scroll
Yep.
is changing your literal like brain waves,
Or
So
even more so, and,
yeah.
and Sarah, I don't know your story or whatever, but the swipes.
Hmm. Yeah.
The swipes is making a judgment call about if you're on
With no
dating apps
information.
with no information, just a visual, you
Yeah.
just swipe and you're actually training your brain
Yep.
to make judgments, which is actually even more reactivity,
Yep.
right? Impulsive reactivity.
Yep.
Second of all, like if you're into the old TikToks and
Yeah.
you're watching the reels, you're watching something for just a brief moment, you swipe, you're doing the same thing,
Yeah.
right? And you're putting impulses to your brain of like,
Disregard, or you're not even allowing your brain to absorb, take in, have critical thought. Like,
mhm,
hey, do I like this? Do I not like
yeah,
this? Do I agree with
yeah,
this? Do I not agree? Like, all of those critical thinking skills are just getting killed
yeah.
by how you're spending your time. And I think there's just, we cannot overstate this enough, especially right now, because I think people are more burned out than ever. They're more just at max capacity than ever. They're more, it's so interesting. I've never experienced a time in my life where ghosting is just across the board with like every human. You're just like, this would
Mm.
have never flown 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and just kind of all of these behaviors. And I think it's really important for us to take that ownership and to say, I don't have to just be like that because that's where maybe we are going or how everybody else is. I can choose to be intentional with my time. I can choose to be intentional with my relationships and to respond when people reach out and just, all of these different things. Like that can be your choice of upgrading who you want to be. Any of those things we can change and we have that power. And I think that's just it's so critical. I don't know where I would be in my life if
Yeah.
I didn't
So
have
I
that.
want to come back to that, and I want to say this one thing, and then I want to come back to something else that you started. One of the first earlier chapters, I say it's first, I don't think it's first. It might be the second, third chapter. Uh, it's not. I think it's like, yeah, it's something in the
Yeah.
front where it talks about our someday addiction.
Yeah.
Someday I'm going to do this. Someday I'm going to do that. Someday, whatever. And one of our some days was we want to give our kids, a European experience, and we're going to
I
take
love
one year
that.
off and move. And the vision board had 2024,
Yep.
and we're in the middle of COVID. My wife turns to me and said, "We're moving. We are
I
done.
love this so
Let's get
much.
out
I'm
of
so glad
here."
you brought it up. My
And
listeners know this is my full-blown obsession, like full blown.
nice. And so in 2022, we made the move.
So
And in
freaking
my
awesome.
book, I talk about, all the challenges, like the stuff we went through, the speed at which we made it happen. And it was not without a lot of tears and pain.
Yeah.
And you also learn about some of your own identity issues and, letting go of family and friends and belongings.
Yeah.
And, we showed up here with 14 bags and that's
Wow.
it. And
That's incredible. And you're in
we're starting
Portugal,
our
right?
lives.
You're in
And
Lisbon. Yeah.
we're in Lisbon,
Portugal.
Portugal. And all of that was a shedding of self in multiple ways.
Yep.
And it came with some grief. It came with some things that we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
And then you're in a completely different culture with a completely different way of doing things. Why am I standing in line? Why am I? They told me it'd be here Thursday, and now they're saying it's not going to be here
Three
for
weeks
three
later.
months. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you just have to learn a different way, and then you just get chill about it. And it has been the best thing for me
Yeah.
to slow down,
I'm so
to
glad you
be
brought
present.
so glad you brought this up because I was going to ask you part of what I've been teaching corporate executives for the last like 5+ years has been one of my kind of 5 prongs of life, if you will, that I kind of coach all my methods through is how important it is for us to have a balanced life, which I know gets a lot of pushback these days, but I've been living proof that it can happen and it just takes some intention like everything else. And so one of the ways that we do that is by knowing what brings us joy and having passions and joys and then making that a value point the same way the gym is a value point or
Mhm.
hitting deadlines at work is a value point. Like they're
Mhm.
they all have in my mind, truly like equal value points. Spending time with my
Yep.
family has an equal value point. So if I only have one of those five that has a value point and the rest of them don't, yeah, of course I'm going to be like totally burned out, completely like brain fried, miserable person. But
Yep.
if I know the things that bring me joy and bring me happiness, and I know how to let go and unwind in the moments that I get that. So for me, travel
Mhm.
is enormous. I've been taking my kids to Europe for 5 or 6 years. I've taken now, I think, 40 some odd women over the last 4 years to Europe for various retreats and things like that, teaching them how to
Mhm.
travel in Europe. And what it taught me was the value of pleasure, the
Mm.
value of beauty, the
Yep.
value of laughter, the value of a really great wine that costs
Yep.
$5. You know what I mean? Like just all these things that
Mm.
we don't here in America know how to value in the same way or don't put that or we put it in a category. If you have time to enjoy a really good wine, you're in a different class than me and
Yep.
whatever, good for you or fuck you,
Yep.
like
Yep.
whatever. And it's such a different mentality over there. So I came back and I thought, oh my God, how do I teach people how to do that here? Because it is so counter to our culture. Um, but the difference in the life you live and the person you can become when you understand that and when you make it enough of a priority to change your life, whether you're doing something as amazing and massive as you did, relocating your family or finding ways to integrate that back here at home, I think like if you don't have that, how could you have balance? How could you? You're missing the entire point of life. You're missing the joy of
Yep.
life. How has it changed you? Curious to know.
Um, well, I'm far more chill.
Yeah. You
Um,
have to be, right?
I I definitely love wine now,
Right?
to your point,
Yep.
because it's
And
so
good food.
affordable
Oh my God, Portugal has such great food. Oh,
and it's healthy, right?
yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, that's what cantaloupe is supposed to taste like. That's what strawberries are supposed to like. Everything here tastes very different from the US.
Just
Um,
mind-boggling.
all the, we can go into all the GMOs, we can
Yeah.
go into, food coloring and all these different things. Like there are a lot of things that the European lifestyle protects,
And has always
the
protected. Yeah.
consumers, right?
Yeah, because they've always seen
And
value.
when I was in the States, there are pieces of that I thought, oh, but that's, stupid, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And then I come over here, I'm like, actually,
Now I
that
get it.
is really smart.
Yeah.
If you buy electronics here, like automatically you have a 3-year warranty,
Yeah.
period, full stop. If
Yep.
someone sells you something, it's 3 years. I don't have to get my Apple,
Pay
care
$12 a
thing.
month for
I
it.
don't. It's already lock, stock, and barrel.
Yep.
You're paying for it,
Yep.
by purchasing. Well, those are pieces. There is also the context of not owning a car.
Yeah.
Like
Being able to
if we
walk
lived
everywhere
outside
you
of
go.
Lisbon, we'd likely have a car for
Yeah.
sure. But the transit system here is just incredible.
Yep.
The safety,
Yep.
I don't have to worry about my teenagers.
Nope. They
Like
can go
they're
out
out
and
and
enjoy
about right
life. And
now.
yeah, they can
It's
go to the coffee shop and hang out and they're
it's
good.
quarter to 10 on a Friday night,
Yep.
and I'm not worried about my kids.
Nope.
They're 16 and 17. When we came, they were 10 and 12. And if they wanted to go meet their friends at the beach, they could jump on the
Yep.
metro, go down to the water. They jump on the train. The train will take them to the beaches. My kids could do that on their own. They have a
Yep.
pass that they get for free up till 23 years of age, and they can travel within an hour and a half of
Freaking
Lisbon.
amazing. And they're not glued to
On
their phones all the time. They're like out actually doing things and having fun. People are
uh,
laughing. Whole
uh,
families and generations of families are out having dinner at 11 o'clock at night. It's just, I think
Yesterday
all of
was
those
a,
things are
a
just
bank
amazing.
holiday, and my son met with his two friends at 8 a.m. to go out to the airport and do plane spotting.
I love that.
These same boys, these
I
same
love
three
that.
boys stayed up and they became a part of a running club. They're the youngest people in this running club. And the running club did an all-night run around
So
Praça de
cool.
Comercio, the big
Yeah.
square that's down by the
Yep.
water.
Yep.
And they just ran all night on shifts.
Oh, I love
And my
that.
kids were out there between between 12 o'clock and 2 a.m. And my wife said, we're going to go make sure they're safe. And I'm like, babe, they're fine, but
Yeah.
I'm a good husband.
Yeah.
I'll come with you. We get down there and we're hiding because we don't
Yeah.
want our
Yeah.
son
Yeah.
to
Know that you're
know,
spying on them.
that we're,
Yeah.
and hopefully he doesn't listen to this episode.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, we've been here 15 minutes. I can see there's adults, there's
Yeah.
people over there by their stuff and their bags that are watching everything. We're in one of the main pieces of the city
Yeah.
and it's wide open, it's well lit, and
Yep.
there's a police department just like literally on the next block.
Yep.
And I said, I think they're going to be okay. And I mean, our kids, at the time, they're, one of the kids was 14, one was 15, my son was 16. Or I may have that. My son was 15, the kid was
Yeah.
16. And I said to the moms, I'm like, I am so sorry. I'm not concerned like you guys are.
Yeah.
If this is the things that our boys are choosing to do at this age in their life,
Right.
we
Yeah.
should consider ourselves blessed.
No kidding. And the confidence that it's building in them, those are just things that don't exist in childhoods here anymore.
Yeah.
There's fear every time you drop your kid off at school for,
Yeah.
for just a basic
Yeah.
thing, right? And so that was another reason why I started traveling with my kids when my twins were 9 and my son was 13. We went to Italy for the first time. And I was just like, I can't give them this type of childhood back home. I just can't. It doesn't exist.
Hmm.
But I can show them it exists other
Yeah.
places. And I can have my 13-year-old go down to the store and take his time and go get a coffee. And I wouldn't even be able to do that where I live in the suburbs in
Yeah.
Portland, And
Yeah.
so giving them that confidence is so key for them, having them learn how other cultures are. And I love that. Has any of that leaked into your coaching, like how you can find happiness, balance, things like that, that
Well,
you find
100%.
leaders are open to?
Yeah, 100%. But I want to like taper that too, or a little bit. On one hand, it's like throwing our kids into Portuguese schools. Like we came here, we did not put our kids in international schools.
Yeah,
Like most American
right.
expats that come over here, they put their kids in these private schools. I want my kids to learn the language and the
Yep.
culture and everything else. I'm like my kids are smart enough.
Yeah, they'll
They're
figure it
going
out.
to be fine,
Yep.
and they're going to have another whole skill set because of what they've gone through, their level of perseverance and challenge,
Resilience.
and yeah,
Yep, all
all
of
those
it.
things, right? So I say that to say in the same way, um, when you insulate yourself from things, you don't necessarily learn some things,
1,000%.
right? So one thing I know about high performers is that if you tell them to slow down and do less, you
Yeah.
might as well stick a knife in them and drop them dead because
Yeah.
that's the most furthest thing from their mind. And so, counterintuitively, what I don't tell them is to do less. What I tell them is to just do the right things,
Hmm.
not all the things.
Yeah.
Meaning, some of the things they're doing are a product of maybe they started the business by themselves, or maybe they started at the bottom or whatever. And they're used to be able to doing these things with such capacity and such capability. But you eventually go from business building to actually a management and
Yep.
then to an ownership, right?
Yeah.
And most leaders never operate like owners.
Yeah. They
And
don't
what I
know how
mean
to
by that is,
transition that identity into those
mhm.
next levels, which means letting go of the past identity. Yeah.
And now they can't, delegate, or if they have time in their schedule, they freak out. Like,
Hmm.
I should be working because my work defines
Right.
my worth,
It's my identity. It's my
right?
whole personality.
And
Yeah.
so there's a couple of sides of this equation, as someone's working towards quote unquote success, and define success however you want. If it's
Right.
money, it's fame, it's a house, it's a spouse, it's a whatever. There's three critical components that you will face. One is, do I deserve? Am I worthy? And do I have what it takes?
Yep.
Right? So definition, do I deserve? Like, I You don't know what I've done. I've made some mistakes. I've done
Yeah.
some shameful things. Uh, uh, um, I have all these stories in my head. Am
Yep.
I worthy? Well, did I grow up in the right city, the right side of the tracks? Is my skin the right color? Am I the right gender? Did I go to the right
Is
schools?
someone
Maybe
else
I
better
should.
than me?
There's
Do they
someone
deserve it
like
more than I do?
all those different things, right? And then there's do I have what it takes? And do I have what it takes is that conviction
Hmm.
that I can figure it out. And either I have it or I don't. I have to work that muscle.
Hmm.
It's not about having confidence. And let me define that. Confidence is something that only exists in the past.
Hmm.
People think you need confidence to do anything. Nobody, let me say that again. Nobody does anything with confidence.
Right. I mean, the only way confidence comes is from repeated success at trying the thing. It doesn't come any other way.
Which
So if you're
means
not trying the thing and doing the
the
thing,
only
there's
thing
no way to get
exactly.
it.
The only thing you can be confident is doing the same thing you've always done.
Yeah.
But when you're growing and you're advancing and you're expanding,
You're
everything is
outside
new,
that line. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So what you need is the confidence that you'll gain the competence, which will
Yeah.
bring the confidence, right? So all of that to say is as they're getting into these different states, you're starting to operate on a different level and frequency. So
Yeah.
when I'm looking at our move to Portugal, it's redefining what is the life I want to create,
Hmm.
and then what must I do to create that life? How do I shape my
Yeah.
work, my relationships, my values around the life I'm creating? Now
Amen.
that keeps
Yeah.
me in a powerful state with the intention to actually do the thing that I started out in the first place.
Hmm.
I thought if I build this thing, if I get this role, if I get in this company, I'm gonna X, Y, or Z.
Yep.
You know, I'm gonna have the house with the 3-car garage and the white picket fence, and da da da, 3 kids or 2.5 kids. I don't know, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And then you get there,
And you're like, is this it?
and you're like, how shouldn't I feel different?
Right.
I like one of my buddies got to a point where he got $1 million in the bank, and I mean
Yeah.
not, I mean
Yeah.
literally. You look at his bank account; it said, one
Yeah.
with all the zeros behind it, and he said, "Shouldn't I feel different
Yeah.
right now?"
Because we're always told that the target is out there and that's going to change everything if I hit the target. And most people who've hit those targets know that that isn't the case. Like you have to be able to find the fulfillment, the joy, the relationships, like all those things right now and cultivate them. And again,
Yeah,
put value on them so that you
yeah,
understand why they need that cultivation the same exact way as your job needs it or founding your company needs it or whatever. And if you're not, there is no such thing as satisfaction.
yeah.
It doesn't matter what
And
you accumulate, you will never feel any different than you do right now. So if you're not learning how to like bring that into the current state in whatever way, it's not going to be the ultimate way yet, but that's fine. You're just learning how to bring it in now. Then it exponentially gets better as you rise.
so in my book, in Neuro Resilient Leader, the concept that I have is called the nothingness.
Mm,
It's nothing to gain, nothing to prove, nothing to lose. It's the most powerful person in any room. And that's the state that we're actually all looking for.
yeah.
And what it does not do, it does not negate ambition. It redefines ambition.
Hmm.
When I walk into a room, it's not about whose hand can I shake. It's not about who can I impress. It's not who can I please. It's rather, how do I just walk into a room with the expression of my fullness?
Hmm.
I think most high performers are operating from a proof concept of I am trying to put something into the world, to move it, to shake it, to mold it, manipulate it, craft it, create it in order to prove I belong in this room.
Right.
In order to prove I belong with this paycheck. In
Yep.
order to prove I belong with these eyeballs and this attention. And as long as you are continuing to think that way, it creates power around you and no power within.
Hmm.
And the Neuro Resilient Leader is about bringing that power back into you, your own, personal power, your own sovereignty. That's the agency I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
When we are in that state, when we walk into a room, we're the lighthouse. When we walk in that room, people feel safe in our presence. When we
Being the
walk into the,
magnet. Yeah.
now we are operating in this exponential capacity.
Yeah.
And now the things that we do are not because we're in the pursuit and stepping into exhaustion and taxing and, all those things. Instead, it's this level of expansion and expression
Right.
that these things become fun and carefree and effortless in their context.
Yeah. And I just want to remind everyone who's listening, this isn't a unreachable utopia that we're talking about. This is something you and I both have figured out for ourselves. We have lived it. We know the difference between living this way and not living this way.
Yep.
We know that there's a process to get there. You teach a process to get there, and so do I. So I think like what I want to remind everyone is if you're feeling unfulfilled, if it feels like, hey, I did a lot of the stuff, and like, why do I still feel this way? Is there more to life? Is there, do I have to always feel so overwhelmed and so burned out and whatever the case is? The answer is 1000% you can change all of that. You can change, and as soon as you start making some actual changes, following a process like you teach and doing some of these things, you can get almost immediate relief. You can start to feel immediately better. And then the more you practice, obviously, the more like real systemic change you start to see. But it is possible for every single person listening. This is not like you have to have a certain level of whatever. I did it with absolutely no understanding of personal development. You started with no understanding of psychology or personal development. So get those resources. I'm going to put your book link in here. Take advantage of that. Like go get the book, do the work. I'm sure you have, work and exercises and things like that in there because the life that you want is absolutely possible, but it's not possible if you're just going to like rinse and repeat today. Like that's not going to fucking happen. You have to really say, I want something different bad enough more than I want to rinse and repeat. I want to
Mhm.
change. I deserve a change. I think I can make that happen. And you can if you just have just like that spark of desire. And so I just want to thank you so much for pouring into us today and sharing all of this wisdom. And I absolutely love that you did the big move. I it just that's gonna be me one day. I'm just putting it out there. Thanks for showing that it's possible and
What's the
raising your
date?
kids that way too. So
What's the date?
well, it was supposed to be this year because this is the year that I'm supposedly empty nester, but my daughters still live with me. They're
Yeah.
going to school locally, so they still live here. So I told them, you get one more year, then I'm out
Mhm.
of here. Then I'm
Yeah.
moving to Italy, to France, or Portugal, whichever one's
Yeah.
the easiest to get to. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm out of here, and you can come visit me all the time. But yeah, I'm good. You'll be 20. I did my thing. I'm out.
Yep. Yep.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us, Angus. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, thank you. And for all of you listeners, you know, thanks for listening this far. And I just want to leave you with one more thing is that, like Sarah said, things are possible because you give yourself permission.
Mhm.
The only permission you need is from you.
Yep. It's the only one that's going to get you to make any type of change.
You can look at
Yep.
all the things around us. The AI is going to process things faster, but you can still stay calm in the
Mhm.
process. The number one thing that the world needs is your humanity.
Amen.
And the
To that.
world cannot afford your hesitation anymore.
Ooh, love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much. Everybody, go get the book. I'll have the links here in the show notes. And don't forget to leave a review, share, comment, all the things. Pass the love along. And until next time, everybody, get out there and thrive.